Welcome to BakYard Poker, the channel dedicated to dealer's choice poker beyond just Texas Hold'em. I'm Ryan, your host, and I'm excited to bring you another poker interview. Previously, I interviewed my father, David, so this time I wanted to go the other direction and interview my son, Joshua. We decided to record it podcast style with audio dialogue and various appropriate photos and videos to go with it. Josh represents a younger generation of poker players, being 24 years old at the time of this recording. So I really enjoyed hearing his perspective on playing poker. We'll be talking about his card playing experiences growing up, his favorite poker games, and why young people should try out this different type of non-Texas Hold'em poker. So let's cue up the intro and start the interview. Welcome to BakYard Poker, everybody, the channel dedicated to expanding your poker palette beyond just Texas Hold'em. This is another interview in my BakYard Poker channel. And today I'm going to interview my son, Joshua.
Howdy, my name's Josh.
So if you've watched my previous interview with my father, David, he imparted a lot of information and stories about playing poker as he was growing up. I'd like to do the same thing with my son, Josh, who's a lot younger, and get his perspective on playing dealer's choice poker backyard style. Josh, thanks for coming on board and doing this interview.
Absolutely, glad to be here.
Okay, so what is your first memory of playing cards? Any cards?
I started playing cards with me and you playing Magic.
And what's Magic the Gathering about?
One of the probably most complicated card games out there nowadays, but Magic the Gathering is kind of like if you were to play D&D on a card game.
Okay, so you use cards and you're like a spellcaster, right?
Mm-hmm. You summon creatures, instants, spells, have what.
Yeah, it's a fun game and you and I still play it. But what was your first exposure to poker cards and poker games?
Oh, probably when I was about around 13, 14 years old. I played a couple of hands with actually my cousins first.
Really?
Yeah. We had a lot of fun doing it. We didn't know what the hell we were doing, but, we were playing Texas Hold'em, and we were using these. We had like these weird chips that were for a different card game we were using. Mm-hmm. And we're using like one was I guess what you would call like a starting bet, the ante and all that. And we would just keep doing that. It didn't go well. We had a lot of arguments about what hand won and what hand didn't.
Was it an actual gambling? Were you actually gambling or just playing for the chips?
Oh, I was just playing for the chips.
Okay. So your first experience was a game of Hold'em with your cousins. That was interesting. I didn't know that. When did you start playing poker in the backyard style?
I think my first game was with you and I think Uncle Mark was there actually. And it was the first time he started telling us funny stories and, I finally got to actually sit in for a couple of hands. I think you handed me like half your pot or something like that. And, I started playing with you guys, and it was a lot of fun. I loved it. You had to teach me the game the entire time, but hey.
What did you like so much about it?
I liked the fluidity of it, where it wasn't just constantly people stopping, and there wasn't this whole, kind of hostility that most poker games have that you see on TV. It's kind of very strict and very stern.
So in the backyard style, you notice it was a lot more social, a lot more laid back, a lot more relaxed. Definitely something that I've been preaching on my channel ever since I started it.
The poker games are now about fun, not about who's going to win,
Exactly. So what are some of your favorite poker games?
I think my favorite game has to be probably, and I'm real sucker for it, is blind baseball, where 3s and 9s are wild, and if you get a four card, you can pay yourself an extra card. And the big kicker to it is all the cards are face down and you flip them up one at a time. You gotta see if you can beat the other guy's hand. You never know when you beat the guy, and you gotta look at how many cards they got left that they can flip over. It's a really fun game.
Everybody loves that game. And it's interesting that you mentioned that game because very soon my next Backyard Poker video game will be showing blind baseball. So it's interesting that you picked that game. Any other favorites?
I like Spit.
Spit in the Ocean. Now that's one I haven't covered yet. So how does that one work?
Isn't that where somebody yells out Spit and that card's like the wild card? I don't remember totally.
Yep, that's one way of playing it. So while you're dealing, somebody says spit, and a card gets tossed out into the middle, becomes your fifth card, and it can be wild if the dealer chooses to do that. You play the game like 5-card draw, and then that card is revealed, and it's your fifth card in wild. Yeah, that's a fun one. Any other ones?
Oh, let's see. I like Little Elbow and Big Elbow. That one can be a lot of fun.
Yep, that was on part 9 of my Poker Basics series. I was talking about community cards. Check out the links in the description below to see more information on some of these backyard poker games. What's your opinion of Texas Hold'em?
Kind of generic. I mean, I like Texas Hold'em every once in a while. It's an easy way to play it for first-time players. But, you kind of really want to stem away from that because then you're going to revolve everything around Texas Hold'em. And Texas Hold'em gets boring pretty quick.
That's exactly the way I feel. There is a place for it, and I can enjoy a Hold'em tournament if that's what I know I'm doing. But to play that the whole night, yeah, it does get a little tedious. And it's really not one of my favorite games. Let's talk about some poker parties that you've actually been to. What do you enjoy most about the poker parties that you've played in?
I think I like meeting people and getting to talk to them and kind of find out interesting things. One particular player I like to listen to a lot is our favorite, Kim. I call him Crazy Old Kim because he can be an interesting wild card, to say the least. And I like listening to the things he likes to talk about. And he'll give us a question of the day. And we'll spend the whole night trying to figure it out before he'll give us the answer at some point during the night.
Yeah, what was one of his questions?
I think there was one about where he was talking about if you fell through the earth, how long would it take you?
Yes. So if theoretically you could fall through the earth from one side and go out the other, how long would it take to travel through the center of the earth and get to the other side?
Yeah.
And I think it was something like, what did he say?
I don't know. It was only take 15 minutes or something, said like that.
It was 42 minutes.
Yeah.
Because, you're going to be going really fast. Is there any other specific memories you have about poker parties that sticks out in your mind?
Oh, yeah. Screwing the pants off of everybody when I end up winning that night.
What was that?
Screwing the pants out of everybody when I win at the end of the night. At the end of the night, I tend to be the one that usually wins these games, but...
Yeah, even recently for your birthday, you were cleaning house. Nobody could keep up with you. So I think you mentioned this before, but maybe there's some other times you've done this. Have you hosted a game at your house or online?
Yeah, I actually hosted some online with my friends on Tabletop Simulator. Mm-hmm. And I would teach them how to play poker. Usually it was teaching them how to play Texas Hold'em because that's the only thing they knew. But eventually I taught them 7-card draw, some basic wilds and such. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, Tabletop Simulator is an awesome program. You can basically create any board game, card game you want for everybody else to sit in and play. It's like being at a virtual table to play a board game, whatever it happens to be. In fact, I used Tabletop Simulator for 2 of my Poker Basics, Part 3 and Part 4. I used Tabletop Simulator, and it really worked well to show the 5-card draw games. Let's talk about poker for the younger generation. With you being a younger guy, Why do you think people your age would enjoy this backyard style of poker?
It's not the same old Texas Hold'em that you see on TV all the time. It's a backyard poker provides a wide variety of different ways you can play. You don't have to just play one way during the whole night. You get to experiment, you can have a little bit of fun, and there's no like extremely strict rules that's gonna limit you. The limits are what the people at the table agree upon before the game starts.
Yes, the all-important house rules. Even though, and like you said, it's good to enjoy the games, but you are still playing for money, and it is a good idea to at least cover the bases when certain situations arise when you're playing a game. One of the things that I learned as I kept playing poker, and what you see on my part 10, where I talk about poker etiquette, is I broke some of those rules on there and realized that there's a lot to learn as far as keeping a game fair and respectful, and making sure that the games that people select and play are agreeable to everybody else.
Absolutely. You really want to keep it simple, and you want to try to make it where everybody can have fun at the end of the night.
Okay, so, and be honest here, what could I do as a host of this poker channel to pique the interest of younger players?
Believe it or not, I would say try to really show them those kind of crazier games, because that's going to snatch their attention pretty damn quickly if they see that what you can show can be done differently with poker. That's probably going to be the main draw.
Okay, so like wild card games, your blind baseball one's a good example of a lot of...
That one's a lot of fun. A lot of people like that one. A lot of my friends, they like it because it kind of has that mystery to it, and it gives a kind of a very tense feeling on the table.
So what's your opinion of the Backyard Poker channel?
I think it's great. I'm really happy to say that my dad is working towards something great and wonderful, and that I hope people watch this channel, because, I think a lot of people could really benefit from the rule changes, from the kind of freedom that you can get by playing the way that my father plays poker.
And my father taught me. It's a generational thing that gets handed down. Hopefully you'll do that with your younger generation when you get older. What can you suggest for future content on the Backyard Poker channel?
More Rugu.
Baby Yoda. Oh yeah, he was a hit. I gotta wonder about that guy. You might be seeing more of him soon. Yeah, good suggestion. Anything else?
I think a video on teaching people that it's okay to lose, that there is, still that there is fun that can still be had even if you're losing. Because I've had a couple of bad games where the entire night I basically was losing. But, it's not, at the end of the day, it's not about the money. It's about being there with friends, socializing, having fun with the cards. And I feel like people need to know that more.
You sound a lot like your grandfather, who was saying the same thing, that he wouldn't invite people back who just wanted to come there and win money off of people and not treat it like a social experience. And one of the things that he also mentioned is that it's a great excuse to get people together that you don't see very often. A lot of people, especially men, don't hang around very often, but if you mention poker and drinking and having a good time, free food usually, then they come swarming. We're at the end of the interview. Thanks again for taking part in this. You've given us some wonderful information and amusing stories. The way I like to close the interview is you get to say the last word. Say anything you'd like.
I would like to say to the people that be patient. You'll learn this way of playing poker. It seems daunting at first, but you'll get it, and then you'll realize just how much fun it is.